Are you familiar with the notion of regression completeness? No? It's the idea that however deeply you understand the universe, however many mysteries you solve, there will always be another, deeper mystery behind it.
Talking tigers, ancient gods, zombie servants, mass murderers wearing tutus? To enjoy this book, you are going to have to let go of everything you know about the world, everything you know about how it works and what the rules are. This is the book equivalent of waking up in a whitewater raft in the middle of the night without a paddle. Welcome to Paperback Journeys, where today we're going to be talking about The Library at Mount Char, which is a dark fantasy horror book written by Scott Hawkins in 2015. This book is about a group of orphaned children that are raised by a mysterious man named Father. And he is raising each of these children to specialize in a very particular field of study. And these children are basically known as the librarians. So you've got one of the librarians that is specializing in animal study. Another is specializing in the study of combat and war. And our protagonist, Carolyn, specializes in language. The interesting thing about these kids is that it's not just like they're really heavily studying all of these subjects and the rest of their lives are normal. That's not the case at all. They are completely separated from the rest of humanity. All of their time is dedicated to study. That's it. So when they grow up, they don't understand people or cultural references at all. It's not immediately clear what the mission of Father is. It's not very clear how old he is or where he came from. This is a book which is shrouded in mystery and ambiguity. And it's one of those where you have to sort of like peel back a layer at a time. The story begins decades after they were taken in by Father, and now they're out in the world, and it seems like Father has gone missing. And so like they're just all trying to find out what happened to Father. I've got to say that this setup reminded me immediately, straight off the bat, probably about 20 pages in, I thought, oh man, this sounds like the Umbrella Academy. And it was so similar that I actually checked to see, was the show based off of this book? Because the opening premise is exactly the same as the opening of the show. But no, I found out that the Umbrella Academy was actually based on a comic book series that was written by Gerard Way. Is it Gerard Way or Jared Way? The lead singer of My Chemical Romance, basically. Who knew? Who knew that he wrote a comic book series? Everybody, apparently, except me. But also, there is this feeling to this book that feels as though, rather than a novel, this could have been a graphic novel. And I think the reason for that is because it's really gruesome, it's bloody. The violence is like Tarantino level bloody. There's a lot of really bright, vivid, wild imagery that can sort of be beautiful at times as well, Also, because the characters are so specialized, it almost feels as though they have like superpowers. Like they're a little bit like gothic superheroes. And when I say that, I don't want you to get like the wrong idea about this book and think to yourself, oh, it sounds as though it might be a little bit trashy or something, like fun, but not very serious, just sort of like a little popcorn book. It's not that, though. The writing style, I think, is very good. It's good quality, but also the tone of the story is just surreal and chaotic. I'm going to be saying surreal a lot in this video. Like I say, the book opens and the group of librarians all meet in this clearing in the forest, and this is where we get to know all of them. They've been searching for Father using their specialized skills. So you've got Michael, who is the animal specialist. He's been searching out in the woods and communicating with the animals. It's probably not really enough to say that he's like an animal specialist. He's spent so much time with animals that he is more of like a creature than he is a man. He can barely speak to the other librarians because he's just not used to being around people. He can't understand them at all. And then you've got Margaret, who has been searching the afterlife. She actually has the ability to die and to be resurrected by another of the librarians who can heal, like she can actually bring people back from death. Margaret, again, is a very gothic kind of a character. She's not a vampire, but she's got that vampire vibe, you know? She's very sort of like wispy and whispery and kind of like vacant in a way. She's just died so many times that she's lost a part of herself. Then you've got David, and David is just a nightmare. While Father is away, he's kind of become the new leader. And that really comes down to the fact that everyone is terrified of him. They're not going to question him because his special skills is combat and warfare. Like, he could take them all out if he wanted to. Honestly, David is a little bit of a bully. He just slaps around all of the librarians from the very beginning. Sometimes he just does it for his own amusement. It's clear that he is damaged emotionally, and mentally he is damaged as well. All of their training has come at a cost. And so, yeah, they're all just a little bit off. All he understands is violence. And since that's all he understands, that's all he uses to communicate with people. And then again, you've got Carolyn, and as the language specialist, she is actually able to travel outside of their world and communicate with what she calls Americans. They basically call anyone who isn't like them Americans, right? Like they're sort of like, Americans are portrayed as this sort of like strange entity, you know, these strange creatures that exist out there. They're like this mysterious tribe that have strange cultures and use wondrous tools. Like, for example, one of the characters in one scene gets their hands on a bottle of mouthwash, and they all kind of like look at it and go like, wow, Listerine, you know, like they think it's so, oh, it makes it freshens your breath. Amazing. Also, because they don't really understand the outside world very much, when they enter it, they're all wearing very strange clothes. One of them is wearing a tutu. Another one is wearing a Christmas sweater and cycling shorts. They're doing their best, but they're failing. They're failing to fit in. People kind of look at them like, what the hell is that? And so, yeah, they're all looking for this enigmatic character called Father. Really for most of the book, he's just existing in the background. He's barely present. He is more like a shadow that's hanging over the other characters. And even though they're trying to find out where he went, it's clear that they are deeply, deeply afraid of him at the same time. They talk about him in whispers. They don't like it when anyone suggests anything bad about him. Like, he mustn't be questioned. He's a little bit of a dictator in that way, you know. Even when he's not there, they're just like, you know, what if he hears about this? Like, the idea of Father is very unsettling. Even on the back of the book, it sort of describes him as possibly a god. I think that seems like a good way to describe him, but not a benevolent God, more like an omnipotent, curious God who is willing to experiment with his children to see what will break them and how they will react. It's not that he's evil, it's just that he doesn't seem to really understand the concept of good and evil or the concept of human suffering. He just doesn't care. So yeah, I guess you could say that was evil. He's more like sociopathic, I think. You know, he just cares mostly about power and maintaining it and having control and authority. He doesn't take any pleasure from doing evil, though. Every so often we get a chapter from the perspective of like a regular person that's living in the regular world. And I like it when in books that sort of contain magical realism, you see two worlds side by side. You see our world, and then you see the world that's sort of like being portrayed through the book. And just having that contrast makes you more aware of how mental all this stuff is, you know? Because whenever we do enter the world of the librarians, there's some like otherworldly feel to it. We see the place that they're from. You could sort of think of it as like Narnia, if Narnia were created by Tim Burton, you know? It's a very dark and I keep using this word, but like gothic place. There's some strange creatures who live there. I'm not going to tell you what or who. And this is the sort of book that drops you in the middle and builds outwards very slowly as you start to like piece together the story. After this book, I read so many reviews and people were just basically saying, oh, you know, I hated this book for the first few chapters. I almost DNF'd it, but I'm so glad that I kept going. That opinion just kept coming up over and over again. So it is that kind of book, you know, it's a bit risky, but I feel like if you're not enjoying it straight away, maybe if you just stick with it a little bit longer, you might start to enjoy it a bit more as you start to get more context of the world. Feels very confusing to begin with, but through flashback scenes and conversations that the characters have, previous events that you read about in earlier chapters sort of get like recontextualized. And so, yeah, you know, you're going to have to be okay with a fractured narrative to begin with. I think if you like this book, you'd also enjoy Piranesi by Susanna Clarke because of that sense of the uncanny and the mysterious, very disorienting. Also, I think you would enjoy John Dies at the End by Jason Pargin and Middle Game by, I don't know how to pronounce this author's name. I think it's Shannon Maguire, could be Seanan Maguire. All right, let's do the ratings. And just before I do that, I'd like to thank all of the Patreon members for supporting this channel. A big thank you to the cult members. A massive thank you to the named men. And an extra special thank you to the quartet. All of you make this channel possible, and I'm so glad that we get to build this reading community together. Seriously, thanks so much for being a part of it. And if you like this channel and you'd like to support it and get some perks like the Metallic Paperback Journeys bookmark, access to some of the exclusive rooms on the Discord server, and also access to the PBJ Book Club, then you can click on the link in the description below. All right, let's do the ratings. So for the plot, I'm going to give the plot 3 stars. And the reason for that is it's not always clear what the goals of the characters are. And because of that fragmented way that the story is told, the direction of the plot is sort of like all over the place. I think the ending was maybe my least favorite part as well. So, you know, for some people, I don't know. I think for some people, the ending is going to be their favorite part. So it just really depends what you're into. The characters, I'm going to have to give the characters 4.5 stars. They're just all larger than life. They're all crazy and wild. Like I mentioned, these characters felt like gothic superheroes. I found their misunderstandings about our world and how it works, like the regular everyday world, really funny in places. The setting, I'm going to give the setting 4 stars. I like the world building a lot. I think it would have been 5 stars, although at times the way that it's written was actually quite difficult to picture exactly what was happening, or what setting the characters were occupying at certain points. Originality, gotta give it 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. I've never read anything like this before. So if you're thinking, you know, everything I read just seems so samey, you know, so formulaic, then maybe give this a go because this is really different. Overall, I'm going to give the book 4 stars. I think all of the elements are there, but there's just not enough of like a really strong plot. And for me, the plot is quite important. Also, I did feel a little bit lost at times, so I don't usually love that feeling. If you like this video, then you might also like my review of House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski, and you can watch that by clicking up here. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And as always, happy reading.